with, let me pull up this report, which Diane actually found. It's quite new. And this, by the way, is one of the things that always impressed me with creation research before I was involved in it. And of course, now I'm part of the team that does this. I remember back in 2014 when John was sharing at the Answers Mega Conference that I'll be sharing at later on this year. He reported on a paper that had been published in Nature, the famous journal, and had been published that morning. And of course, later I found out that it was Diane who'd found it and forwarded it to John. So good on you, Diane. But it really does just sort of go to show how up to date so much of creation research has to be. This is a paper. Well, it's not really a paper. This is a report on a paper. As you can see, it's a story in Science News on a paper. But you can see a chemist explained why dinosaur collagen may have survived for millions of years. Notice the may have there is quite an imperative part of it. What are we talking about? Well, for a long while, we've known that collagen, which is a principal component of bones, it's a very fibrous protein. It is a protein, however. It is original biomolecule. It is soft tissue, okay? It is protein, like meat is protein. It's not an inorganic mineral like calcium in your bone, so it is an organic part of your bone, okay? Collagen has been found in dinosaur bones as old as 195 million years. Well, even though this was published just 2 days ago on the 4th of September, it is well, it's not out of date because we haven't actually published on it yet, but we've actually found in some of our research collagen in the stuff that is over 200 million years old. So yeah, this is quite remarkable stuff, this collagen that's found. But notice what they say here. This far exceeds the normal half-life of the peptide bonds, which holds protein together, which is about 500 years. In other words, after 500 years, half of your peptide bonds should have broken down. After 1,000 years, another half of them have broken down. Under another 500 years, another half of them have broken down, and so on and so forth, right? So in other words, you've got what can be called a shelf life for your collagen. It is going to break down over time, and it does this naturally the moment that there isn't something maintaining that biomolecule, okay? So your biomolecules are being repaired, they're being created, they're being held together in your body. Once you've died, you've got no control over your protein, particularly over the amino acids that make that protein up, and all of this stuff begins to break down and decay. And so 500 years is your sort of standard half-life for collagen as a complete unit. But a new study, it says, from MIT offers an explanation for how collagen can survive for so much longer than expected. Okay, well, let's have a look at what this report from MIT is. And we've got it just up here. It's quite a complicated paper, as you can see. There we are. There's your picture of your dinosaur with your stuff in it. And look, there's quite a lot of equations, right? You notice all of these, you've got bentide rings and all sorts in here, like lots of diagrams, lots of equations. It's a big thing for people who like mathematics, which is great. But let's just have a look at the breakdown of effectively their argument, which is why these reports, these little sort of science reports, are actually quite useful, because they do break it down into simpler terms. So let's go back here and have a read down. The research team, we're starting here, look, the research team has found a special atomic level interaction that defends collagen from attack by water molecules. Now, there's lots of outside features that can not just, I mean, you're naturally breaking down all the time the moment that you're dead, but there's lots of outside features that can accelerate that decay, help to break it down even quicker. And one of those is hydrolysis, right? Basically water molecules breaking your peptide bonds down. We provide evidence, they say, we're starting here, we provide evidence that interaction prevents water from attacking the peptide bonds and cleaving them. This flies in the face of what happens with normal peptide bonds, which has a half-life of only 500 years. Okay, collagen is the most abundant protein in animals. There's your little comment there. Collagen is the scaffold that holds us together. What makes collagen protein so stable and such a good choice for this scaffold is that, unlike most proteins, it's fibrous. Now, that's certainly a true statement. It's a long, stringy, fibrous protein, but it is still a protein. Okay, it still breaks down over time. Okay, and in the past decades, paleobiologists have found evidence of collagen preserved in dinosaur fossils, including an 80 million year old Tyrannosaurus rex and a sauropodomorph fossil, a sauropod long-necked dinosaur that is nearly 200 million years old. And we've now found it in crocodilian stuff that is over 200 million years old. And by the way, this isn't the odd thing going on here. There have now been over 150 papers detailing collagen in original collagen and original biomolecules in ancient bone. There's been over 200 papers that discuss just the presence of soft tissue, original biomolecules in fossil bone. And I think it's also important to point out, before I get Diane to comments and stuff, is that there's a clash of terminology here as well. You see, when we say soft tissue, what most people are referring to is the presence of original biomolecules. But soft tissue can also mean soft, squidgy stuff that's preserved, right? So when you find a fossil jellyfish, for instance, you've got preserved soft tissue, right? Because jellyfish are all soft tissue, right? But you haven't got any of that soft tissue, original soft tissue, actually remaining in the fossil jellyfish, right? You're dealing with an impression or so on and so forth. Excellent evidence for rapid burial, but not original biomolecules. When we're talking about soft tissue in this context, in the dinosaur bone context, we are talking about the original biomolecule. We're not talking about skin impressions or lung impressions or all this kind of stuff that we find. We're actually talking about original biomolecules, biomolecules from the original dinosaur that have been preserved within, trapped within the bone. And so when you get the bone and you take your sample and you basically demineralize it and then digest the bone using an acid. One technique we use is trypsin digestion. You're removing the minerals that have permineralized the bone. You're breaking the bone down, digesting it, and you're left with a little solution. And if there's any original biomolecules in that bone, they will now be in that solution. And that's what you can then go on to test. So effectively, the crux of what they're trying to claim is that the lack of water, as well as the fibrous structure of the collagen, of the protein, means that collagen could last for millions of years. Now, there's two issues before I bring Diane in. First of all, the world expert in collagen, ancient collagen and collagen decay, is a guy called Buckley from Manchester University. He's pretty much the authority on this issue from a ancient collagen perspective, right, a paleo collagen perspective. And he says that, and this is a quote from him, there is less than 1% chance of less than 1% protein remaining in less than 1 million years. Now, the lessers are there to cover his back, but effectively what he's saying is, even under an optimal burial environment, and he does use that phrase, even under an optimal burial environment, which is the perfect conditions on the perfect permineralized dinosaur bone, under steady conditions, which, by the way, you don't find in the real world. You get a lot of fluctuation of conditions in the wilds of wherever. Even under optimal burial conditions, you have 1 million years maximum before you should have no detectable collagen whatsoever. Now, this is coming from a paleo, biologist perspective, a paleochemist perspective. If you speak to the likes of Ed Neeland, who's done stuff with creation research in the past and is associated with us, his background is basically biochemistry. He makes these things for a living. And the remarkable thing is that even though a million years is nothing compared to the 200 million years that we're dealing with some of these bones, the reality is when it comes to collagen is that it's even more fragile than that. It will break down extremely quickly. We've already seen the half-life is somewhere between 450 and 500 million years, even in a good condition, right? So your chances of getting collagen surviving for 200 million years is an absurd concept just on the face of it, and as Ed Neeland have said, it's effectively like trying to ask a glass of milk to stay fresh in the sun for 40 years, right? It flies in the face of all of our scientific knowledge and all of our logical understanding. But Diane, perhaps you'd like to comment as a biomedical background, about collagen inside dinosaur bones, because it really seems like they're sort of, grasping at straws here to try and turn something which is inherently fragile, even the most stable of the proteins is still inherently fragile, and they're trying to explain this away by the lack of water and the like, to be able to last for 200 plus million years.